All right, you ready to rock and roll, homie?
Let's get this show on the road.
All right, I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Emily.
And this is a
Trial by Podcast. Wah, wah, wah.
Welcome back, everybody. We are recording. We're filming today as we're recording. I'm going to attempt to make like social media clips out of this, but we'll see how it goes. We are recording from my bad side. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind if you see the videos.
I also look like garbage today because I'm solely running on fumes. I'm so tired.
Emily has had a very fun but very busy month.
Whole month. Oh,
yeah, but a good month.
A great month, but like I need like 3 to 5 business days to recover, I feel like. And yeah, that's gonna be this week for sure.
That'll be good.
So much laundry cleaning to do. So
all right,
we're here.
We made it. Okay. Real quick, Biz Nasty is just make sure you're following us wherever you're listening, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure you hit the follow button so you get reminders when new episodes drop. And if you enjoy the podcast, give us 5 stars. Give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and let your friends know to listen too. Because the more people that listen, the more incentivized we are to make more content. Okay.
And that's on you.
That's really that's really your guys' fault. So today we are going to talk about the life and death of John McAfee, who is most well known as the creator of the McAfee antivirus software. But that's not the only notable thing about him. McAfee was a massive drug addict, yet he went on to have a $100 million fortune and even ran for president of the United States at one point. He moved to Belize and became known for having sex with local sex workers. He was accused of murdering his neighbor in Belize, but was never charged with the crime. At one point, he claimed to have fathered 47 children. He was eventually convicted of tax evasion and reportedly died by suicide in prison, despite the fact that before he even went to prison, he tweeted, quote, "Getting subtle messages from U.S. officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm." End quote. And the tweet included a photo of a tattoo that he got on his right arm that said it was like a $sign, and then it said whacked, like minus it was spelled wrong, but on purpose.
Dude.
And it said whacked. So that was almost 2 years before he died in prison. And he literally said, if I suicided myself, I didn't. So yeah, that's what we're getting into today.
I'm excited because I'm already mind blown because my parents, everyone I know has used this McAfee software. That's what I thought you said. Like when you said his name, I was like, oh, like the software. And then you're like the software. And I'm like, what? Okay,
so I have to give a shout out to our friend Doug for recommending this case to me. Because I never heard, I knew what McAfee software was, but I never heard of this whole story, and it is one of the wildest fucking stories I have ever heard.
Love you, Doug.
And yeah, it's just a wild ride. And it was so funny because while I was doing the research and writing everything, I literally got so many pop-ups about you need to renew your McAfee antivirus software. And it just made me laugh because we're going to go into some stuff like what he says about the software and everything. And it's just fucking hilarious.
Ooh, I'm excited.
So let's do it. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I always write the intro and then underneath the intro, I put my trigger warnings. And I should have said this before the intro probably, but trigger warning, there are mentions of suicide, sexual assault. Obviously, we're going to talk about murder, stuff like that. So if those topics are particularly concerning for you, then maybe this is not the episode for you and you can come back next week. So
This guy has the most things going on.
Literally the most things. So, John David McAfee was born on September 18th, 1945 in Cinderford in the Forest of Dean, Gloucestershire, England, to parents Don McAfee and Joan Williams.
He was born in a forest?
I think it's like the name of the city. Forest of Dean, Gloucestershire.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Don, which is his father, was actually from Roanoke, Virginia, but was serving in the U.S. Army and had been stationed in England where he met his wife, Joan. And eventually, the family did relocate back to the States and settled in Salem, Virginia. So, you know, obviously with one British parent, one American parent, John would always like talked about later in life how he felt, you know, 50-50. He felt just as British as he did American. Though when you hear him speak, he's like total American accent. That's
I was going to say, how is his accent? Like, where's he getting that from?
Yeah, no, like, completely American accent. And like the U.S. and eventually Belize and stuff is where he like spent most of his life. Now, this all kind of sounds like a lovely little like love story. Oh, they met in England, one American, one British guy. Like, but it's not really. It's kind of a sad story. So there were many accounts that reported that Don was actually a raging alcoholic. And John just kind of grew up fearing him, just kind of unsure when the next beating was going to come. And sadly, when John was just 15 years old, Don committed suicide by shooting himself. So in a 2022 Netflix documentary titled, quote, Running with the Devil, The Wild World of John McAfee, it's alleged that McAfee may have actually murdered his own father and then staged the scene to look like a suicide. This guy's a wild, crazy guy, and he is a bad person. We are going to find out. I don't know how much I believe this theory, though. I mean, that's really out there to accuse like a 15-year-old. Yeah, of killing his own dad. And then like, I mean, I guess he's a really smart guy. So maybe he was able to like sufficiently stage the scene as a suicide. But I don't know.
From what you told me in the beginning, like of the summary of his happenings, I mean, I honestly would not put it past him.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it all went downhill from there.
Yeah, you just watch his spiral into like fucking insanity. Like we are going to
just a steady decline.
Just close your eyes while you're listening to this episode. Not if you're driving, but close your eyes while you're listening to this episode, and you will just be watching this man spiral. Like it's crazy. So, despite his troubled childhood, John did pretty well in school, and in 1967, he earned his bachelor's degree in mathematics from Roanoke College in Virginia, which is the same school that would later award him an honorary Doctor of Science degree in 2008.
Damn.
So Joshua Davis, he was the chief editor-in-chief of Wired magazine. You are going to hear his name a lot throughout the story because he was someone from the media that McAfee like really trusted and like stayed in touch with through like a lot of the crazy shit that happens. So Wired has like some of the best, you know, information on McAfee and what he did. And you can like find it all on their website. I mean, it's just a wild ride, but Joshua Davis like really interacted with him a lot. So you'll hear that name a lot. I just wanted to like credit him because some people might not ethically agree with like how much he interacted with McAfee. Mm-hmm. But it's really unique and it's fantastic reporting that this guy does. So anyway, Joshua Davis reported for Wired magazine that during his time at Roanoke, McAfee started up one of his first entrepreneurial endeavors, which was a magazine company. And basically, he would just tell people that like, hey, you won these free magazines. You just have to pay for like shipping and handling. And then he would just like super overcharge them on the shipping. So it was pretty much just like a scam, but it worked. And he was making a decent amount of money from it. But he, instead of like using this money for something good, he just used it to like party till the fucking morning sun came up and just like alcohol, drinking.
Just blew it all.
Just blew it all. So After graduating in 1967, John moved his studies to Northeast Louisiana State College, where he was working towards his doctorate when he was expelled just 1 year into the program for having an affair with an undergraduate student named Fran, who would eventually become his first wife.
Oh.
So, undergraduate student, and at this point, he is working towards his doctorate, so he might be like 8 to 10 years older than her. I don't know.
Age is just a number.
This alone, you're like, okay, well, if she's 21 and he's 29, a little bit weird, but you'll learn McAfee is a fucking creep. So it's not, I don't know. Without context, you're like, okay, it's not that weird. With context, when you get the rest of it, you're like, this fucking psycho.
This fucking guy.
Now, according to the Wired article, after his expulsion, John got a job in Tennessee working for a company called Univac, but was promptly fired after he was arrested on marijuana charges. I think it was just like possession. I don't think it was like selling, but I don't know for sure. He then began working for the Missouri Pacific Railroad, where he used early IBM computers to regulate the train schedules. McAfee, during this job, working for the railroad, which, like, we have a couple friends, and Emily's boyfriend actually works for the railroad, and, like, this is a, like, very serious job. Like, if they make mistakes and something happens,
death.
Like they can like go to prison
and
too.
You can die too.
Like if someone gets hurt on your watch because like a schedule's messed up or something, like you can go to, like, these people go to prison because of like mistakes that they make. So it's like a very serious job. McAfee, though, would often drop acid before going into work, like pretty much every day. Just would take a bunch of acid.
That's a lot. I mean, that's one thing to like smoke marijuana or something before you go into your job, but like just taking acid left and right, that really fucks with your brain.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I also just feel like there are certain jobs, if you just work at a desk, like I work in marketing. If you work in marketing and you're like doing email marketing all day and stuff and you smoke a little, I don't personally, just in case my job is listening to this, I don't partake. But like, okay, well, that's one thing. But if you're like in charge of something dangerous, maybe you shouldn't even smoke weed. Like, let's say you're a surgeon or the railroad, like maybe certain jobs for the railroad, but I don't know. This is wild to drop acid before any job. Like, even if you're like waiting tables, like how do you even talk to people? That's crazy.
Don't you have to get a drug test to get into that too?
Yes. Well, you do now. I don't know if like, can they drug test for
acid? I don't know.
I think it goes out of your system like quickly.
Oh.
I don't know. Crazy though.
That's crazy.
And it gets crazier because acid's not the worst thing he did before he went to work. No. So he was eventually fired from this job after he snorted an entire bag of DMT before work. Completely freaked out. He completely lost his mind and fled from the office and was later found behind a trash can in St. Louis. Like, was down in the city, like found behind like a dumpster, basically.
Just hiding.
Like, just like freaking out. Just completely freaking. So, yeah, he lost.
Drugs are bad, kids. Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Especially drugs like this. Like, DMT, I can't believe he survived snorting an entire bag of DMT, but we will see. This had horrible ramifications on the rest of his life, and I think might have had something to do with how crazy he was.
Because his brain cells were non-existent probably at that point.
Like, so he said that he didn't plan on taking the whole bag, but he kept taking more and more and wasn't feeling anything because he had never taken it before. He had done all this acid, but had never taken DMT. So he's like snorting lines of it and just was like, I don't know, I didn't feel anything. So I kept taking more and eventually like ends up doing the whole bag, goes into work, and it like hits him. And of this experience, McAfee recalled, quote, "Within an hour, my mind was shattered," end quote.
This is giving me like Wolf of Wall Street vibes.
Yeah.
When he's just like completely plastered out of his mind.
Yeah. Now, of course, losing his job affected him in the short term, but according to McAfee, this experience had long-lasting ramifications, and he was completely traumatized by it. Part of him believed for the rest of his life that he was still tripping on the DMT, and it was all like a fever dream, and it was just all one long hallucination that he hadn't woken up from yet. Like this is what he's telling Joshua Davis decades after this happened.
I mean, yeah, drugs will do that to you, I feel like.
That's terrifying.
I mean,
that's terrifying. Imagine you thought that you like live this whole, like, I don't know, that like your entire life was just one hallucination. That's crazy. Now, after being fired from the railroad, he went through a few different jobs at companies like Xerox, General Electric, and even NASA, all while heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol. According to Davis, by the time 1983 rolled around, McAfee was not doing well, which I guess I kind of to be expected. He had a nasty cocaine habit, and he was drinking a bottle of scotch per day. And his wife had left him at this point. Fran was like, I'm out of here. Like,
she's over it.
Good woman. That's what I would do too.
Good for you, Fran.
Don't deal with that. Don't put up with that shit. Now, McAfee claims that he and Omex, the company he was working for at the time, came to a quote unquote mutual understanding, and he left the company. But a lot of people say, like, just think he was fired.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure. Now, after days of doing drugs alone in his house, like, he gets fired, or they came to an understanding. He goes home and he's doing just like full bender alone in his house with no one around. His wife has left him, and he like doesn't really have any friends. And he was contemplating suicide at that point. But he decided to take a chance and go see a therapist. And he actually started going to AA. And in 2012, he claimed that he had been sober since 1983. Now, we will see that that is not true.
I was going to say, was this before or after he thought that he was on drugs for 10 years?
He like, literally will say, like, you'll see these interviews that are from, like, the 2010s, and he's like, yeah, like, I've been sober. And we're going to see later in the story, like, it is not true. But he's always like, yeah, this therapist changed my life. I think he did stay sober for a long time. But he definitely did not stay sober until 2012. But like, he's at first for a while, like, this really changed his life, getting sober. And I think for a lot of people it can. So, if you need help, go get help. But I don't know. He's full of shit still. Now,
at least he tried, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. At least he tried. If he, even if he relapsed, he should have tried again. Mm-hmm. But so, according to The Guardian, McAfee was working at a company called Lockheed in 1986 when a computer virus hit personal computers for, like, the first time ever. Now, this virus was known as the Pakistani brain computer virus, and estimates reported in TRT World magazine suggest that it affected more than 100,000 personal computers between 1986 and 1989. Now, this is like a kind of interesting backstory. So this virus was actually created by a 24-year-old Pakistani man named Amjad Alvi, and was actually spread on accident. So him and his brother were like, they were just into computers. Like, they were just trying to make this fun little thing. And obviously at the time, the internet wasn't a thing. So they were trying to see, like, if they could get messages basically transmitted somehow by using coding to do so. Mm-hmm. So, like, they weren't, trying to, like, destroy people's computers or anything like that. And they proved this because in the virus, so, like, basically what happened, they copied this, I don't know, code or whatever it is onto a floppy disk on his PC, which somehow caused copies to be spread across computers running on the same system, which was the MS-DOS system. So in this code, he literally put his like name and address and everything and like contact information because he was like, he was just doing this whole thing out of curiosity, and it ended up like changing the world and making computer viruses a thing. It's just kind of crazy. Like,
interesting.
So unlike me, who literally cannot comprehend how this thing spread without the internet, McAfee quickly figured out how this virus worked and created a computer program that was able to stop it. And with this, he saw his opportunity, and this is when he opens McAfee Associates. McAfee Associates, which operated out of his house in the beginning. Now, the company offered the software to personal users for free in order to like spread the word. Like, hey, if your personal computer was affected by this virus, here's our software. You don't even have to pay for it. But they made like companies and businesses pay for it. So it was like they got the word spread through just average users. And that's kind of like what made them spread so quickly and so big. It was a really smart marketing tactic. Now, according to McAfee's obituary in The Times, the company was bringing in $5 million a year by 1990, which would be equal to about $12 million today. So that's within like the first few years of the company. Then in 1992, McAfee was all over the media talking about the newest software virus, which was called the Michelangelo virus. McAfee warned the public that it was powerful, and he estimated that millions of computers would be destroyed by it. Now, McAfee Associates, their sales spiked substantially because people were scared. Like, computers were expensive. It was uncommon to have one in your home. And he's saying, this is going to be everywhere. You know, it'll destroy your computer. You won't be able to fix it. Blah,
I feel
blah,
like
blah.
I like vaguely remember this, like, because I remember my parents being like, make sure you have this software on your laptop or whatever, and make sure you don't get a virus and whatever. Oh, I remember this.
Well, it was 1992.
Oh,
so
maybe not.
You weren't alive yet.
I was not even a swimmer.
But I feel like it's probably similar to a lot of viruses that came after it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I
it was
remember
probably
like
just a different virus.
Yeah, I remember like when I first got my first laptop, that was the software I got.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you don't want to get a virus.
It's crazy. So basically he's all over the media, like inciting fear, like, you know, your computer is going to be destroyed. And even though their sales spiked substantially from this, it was later determined that less than 100,000 computers had actually been affected. And the media then just like lit McAfee up for spreading false fear. Like, basically he blew this whole thing completely out of proportion.
Yeah.
And they call him out on it. But according to McAfee, even the criticism was profitable for him. He told a blogger later, quote, "My business increased tenfold in the 2 months following the stories, and 6 months later, our revenue were 50 times greater, and we had captured the lion's share of the antivirus market," end quote.
He's very much like, yeah, maybe I lied, but like, it got me a lot of business and did what I wanted it to, so.
Well, this is really where it took him from. Like, a lot of people, you know, after the first one, maybe still didn't get it because that was the first ever virus. And they're like, is this a real thing? Can it happen again? And then when he blows this up, it's like, now everyone wants it. Now everyone's scared of the viruses.
Yeah.
And I think this is really like a big stepping stone to McAfee antivirus software becoming like the standard to have on your computer. Now, in 1994, McAfee sold his last remaining stake of the company for almost $100 million and left the company for good. Then in 2010, which was 16 years after he left, it was acquired by Intel for $7.68 billion.
Whoa!
Which is a lot of money.
Yeah. So does he get any of that since he sold his stakes to it or no?
No. I mean, he still got $100 million out of it, which is wild.
That's a lot, but I mean, $7 billion is a lot more.
Yeah. Now, Intel after they purchased it, they rebranded all of the McAfee products and began referring to them as Intel security products. They do reverse this later. It is known as McAfee security products again. But this, I think there's about a decade where it was called Intel security products. And after they did this, McAfee went on like a BBC show and he told them, quote, "I am now everlastingly grateful to Intel for freeing me from this terrible association with the worst software on the planet."
Now he's like trying to knock it.
Yeah.
He's like, "You don't get my profits."
Yes. Now he's just like dogging it. And he says,
that's funny.
He says, "These are not my words, but the words of millions of irate users. My elation at Intel's decision is beyond words." End quote.
Okay, John.
Which it is funny because like, maybe not so much nowadays, but like back in the day, I remember like when I was in high school and stuff, everyone was like, "This fucking software is so annoying." 'Cause it's like always, even to this day, like I said, while I was writing this, I kept getting pop-ups about the virus, like, or, you know, you got to protect your computer, you got to renew. I'm like, stop. But his stance on the company that he had started didn't really surprise many, like when he gave that interview with BBC, because just a year before making this statement, McAfee had released a video on YouTube titled, quote, "How to uninstall the McAfee software." And this fucking video, we're going to get into it later, like, because I'm going to go through the timeline of what's going on. I'm just trying to get through the business stuff.
Yeah.
Give you some, you know, context. And then we're going to go through like the timeline of what's going on behind the scenes at this time. But this video is fucking batshit crazy. It is so insane. I want to say it's funny, but because he's such a bad person and does really bad things, it's not with context. But anyway. Now.
Just the audacity is hilarious.
Dude, it's just to... like something that you created.
And now he's
your
like
baby, your
it.
Life's work, your legacy, and to say
he's having major FOMO. He's like, "I'm so sad I sold this and now it's doing so well. So I'm going to just destroy their chances."
Well, it's funny because it was doing so well, but it did have like a bad reputation. Like people found it annoying. And it's like, there's no, like that the whole joke is like, everyone's like, "How the fuck do I get this off my computer?" Like no one could figure out how to uninstall it. And again, we're going to go through this whole video like in detail later, but basically it ends with him shooting the computer. Like they're basically like the joke is not even he knows how to uninstall it.
Oh my God.
Now.
It's stuck on your computer forever.
Yeah, pretty much. So after he left McAfee Associates, he did start up a few more companies. He bought a bunch of properties all over, and he even wrote some books on spirituality and opened a yoga and meditation retreat in Colorado.
Okay.
He also had a ranch in New Mexico, and he bought like some of those small glider planes for the ranch. Like, but it's weird. They're like open, like they're open air. Like there's no, you're not inside really. You're just kind of in this thing. So.
Okay.
I just mentioned this because according to the LA Times, he had some guests at his ranch and 2 of them died in a flying accident on the ranch.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound very safe.
No, I'm sure it's not safe. And especially if this guy is like the one leading everybody, definitely not safe. But a family member ended up suing McAfee for negligence over this incident.
Ooh.
It's not a huge thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Now, the New York Times reported that when the 2007-2008 global financial crisis hit, McAfee's investments plummeted, and his $100 million fortune that he got from selling his life's work basically became a much smaller $4 million fortune. So McAfee had no choice. He had to start selling off his properties, his other holdings, anything he could do because he couldn't afford to keep paying for all of these things. And in 2009, he relocated to Belize. And, you know, so basically the thought is he moved to Belize because it's way more affordable and he could have like, you know, still that kind of like rich lifestyle that he was accustomed to, but he couldn't afford it in the US and he had to sell all of his properties and all of that in the US. So in Belize, McAfee chose the island of Ambergris Cay for his beachfront home. According to a 2016 documentary titled Gringo, The Dangerous Life of John McAfee, which I love. Love that title. It's in Belize that McAfee met a young biologist by the name of Allison. So Allison was in Belize conducting research for Harvard University. She had basically started this research study in which she hypothesized that plants found in rivers in Belize could be processed and used to stop infections in humans, which, if true, could have been the conception of an entirely new type of antibiotic and just completely change. It would change the pharmaceutical industry forever.
Jeez.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but in America, there is a lot of money in the pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. So McAfee was immediately impressed with her and wanted to get in on this.
Money bags.
So he offered to not only fund her research, but if successful, fund the start of her own company. So basically she's like she's a grad student, but he's offering her the chance to start, like, lead her own lab and, like, start her own thing separate from the university. And she, like, wanted
chance of
to
a
do
lifetime,
it.
yeah.
Chance of a lifetime. So Allison promptly quit her job in the U.S., moved to Belize, and began working there, like, full-time for McAfee's new pharmaceutical startup. And the name of the company they decided on was Coremax. Now, McAfee put out a few million to build the company headquarters in Belize, and the pair kind of just seemed like a duo to be reckoned with. She had the science, the know-how, all of that. And then McAfee not only had the money, but he also had, he knew how to run a business. He knew how to start a company. He had done this multiple times before.
Yeah, she had the brains, he had the bills.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say, I that's how I want, like, me and my future husband to be. And then I'm like, never mind. I want the brains and the bills.
Same.
I want him to have the beauty. He can have the beauty.
Don't worry, sweetie.
With the bills, Hades. I'll buy the beauty for myself.
Hades, honey.
Hades, honey. You don't need the beauty if you got the bills. Now, the more that Allison got to know McAfee, though, the more she started to regret her decision to work with him. In an interview with ABC's 2020, Allison explained that John seemed to be, like, becoming increasingly paranoid as time went on. He would often talk to her about how he planned to, like, take over Belize entirely.
Okay.
And he tries.
Dream big.
He tries. Now, though he continued to publicly claim that he was sober, like, in the press, McAfee was a regular at a local bar called Lover's Bar. Now, I don't have, like, direct evidence that he was drinking there, but allegedly, he was fucking drinking there, okay?
I feel like you don't just go to a bar to hang out and talk. You know?
Now, the owner of the bar was a man named Paz, and whether it was, like, his bar or his connections to the local sex workers that endeared him to McAfee, the two became very fast friends. So this is, like, his fucking BFF in Belize. And Paz introduced him to many local Belizean women. Again, like I said, they're believed to be sex workers. And McAfee basically was, like, started collecting them. In the end, he at one point had 7 women living with him on his compound. And they're all, like, young, like 20. And it's a
like,
weird.
Living with him, or, like, is he starting a brothel at this point? Because
I think I don't. That's a good question. I didn't read anything about, like, that he was, like, I think he was paying them to, like, they got to live on this, like, huge beachfront compound, and, like, he wanted them, like, for himself. Like, he wanted 7 different girlfriends and, like, to be doing some wild shit.
That's crazy.
And
orgies every day.
But I don't think he was, like, using them to make money, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Now, these women can be seen in that video I mentioned earlier, like the how to uninstall the McAfee antivirus software.
They're just dancing in the background, like... Is that how they were?
So I am going to just describe this video to you guys because I don't know, maybe I'll cut in the audio, but I think the 90% of the craziness comes from watching the video. Like it's the visual, it's not the audio. Like the audio is pretty like normal and the visual is crazy. So I'm going to go through, describe this whole thing. I'm going to show Emily the video so she can just like experience it. I'm excited. And we'll talk about it, but I will post this video. I'll share it on our Facebook and our Instagram. So make sure you're following us. It's at A Trial by Podcast. So I'll post it like the day that we release this episode. So if you're listening, it should be up. Go check and watch this video because it's just fucking crazy. It's so funny. I mean, again, with context later on, it's not that funny, but it's very dark, but it's crazy.
It sounds like there's just a lot going on in the video.
So basically, like, this video is him, and he has obviously like a fake background on screen, like where it looks like this like really fancy like wooden study like in a billionaire's house type of thing with like a fireplace and wood and velvet and all that. And then he's wearing like this red silk silk road. What are we? My brain.
That's sometimes. A nice silk road.
Silk robe, a red silk robe, and all like
just
all
giving
of these,
Hugh Hefner vibes.
Yes, so all of these women are like just around him in like in lingerie and like sexy nurse outfits, and then on the table in front of him, the table is just covered in guns, and then there's these white boxes on them that like you can tell they're not like. The boxes are there, but I think in like post editing, they put a label on them that says bath salts. And then he's literally just like doing lines of powder. And then at one point, like his whole face is covered in powder. And like they're insinuating that he's doing bath salts. And like there's one, like it kind of starts with like a woman, he's talking and he's like, "Hi, I'm John McAfee, creator of the McAfee antivirus software. And today, like, we're going to learn how to uninstall the software." And like, he's trying to do it. And then he just like throws the laptop behind him. A woman like reaches into the screen and she's just holding a rolled up $100 bill. And then he lights it on fire and like uses the $100 bill to like light a cigarette. And then she's like, as he's talking about how to uninstall the software, they're all just like rubbing all over him and like kissing him and whatever. And he's got like lipstick kiss marks all over his body.
Oh my God.
And then like I don't know. This thing is fucking crazy. Just so
the most wild.
Yeah, I'm gonna show Emily. I'm gonna decide after. I might cut the audio in too, and then we'll see what you guys think about it.
We have linked the YouTube video in the show notes, so make sure to check it out.
That's so funny. Wow.
Isn't that fucking wild?
I have so many questions.
Okay, so overall, what are your thoughts?
I honestly, I don't know. I'm speechless a little bit because what the fuck was that?
Dude, aren't you like, this is, at first, you're like, this is fucking hilarious, but then the more you think about it, you're like, yeah, also though it's too far. Like if he just made a video about like where he's like cursing and reading the funny reviews and he's like, I don't know how to install it or whatever. And even if like a girl in lingerie came in and like lit a cigarette for him, but then it's like it just
spirals down. It goes downhill real quick.
And it just makes you think, you're like, this isn't really about the software sucking fully either. It's like it's really about like trying to shock people. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's a crazy video though, but I
want to know, was that his idea or did somebody give him that idea? Like, oh, maybe you should just make a video about these like funny reviews that people are sending you. Or
I have no idea, but
that was wild.
Crazy. It's crazy. Now, so the women in that video are the women that I was saying that are believed to be local sex workers that were his girlfriends. Like they all, I think they all lived with him and all of that.
He's literally a Hugh Hefner.
Or like, yeah. Now, some of these women were later interviewed by Dateline, and in a cheery tone, one woman tells the interviewer, quote, "You can't give him 1 or 2 hours. He wants like morning till day. I mean, like you have to be in that bed from morning till the next day. And if you can continue till 7 days, That's sex for him, end quote.
What the fuck?
Now, in the video, I'm just giving you my impression. I can't put words in her mouth. The way she spoke about it, like I said, she's using a cheery tone and she's like laughing. It seems to be like consensual. Like these women seem to be consenting women and fine with what is happening. And, you know, that's the vibe I'm getting.
They were okay with the way things were currently unfolding.
Yeah, I wanted to make that clear because just to represent the story accurately. Now, it's reported that during this time, McAfee was using bath salts called MDPV, which apparently heightened sexual sensations. And McAfee liked to refer to the drug as quote-unquote perv powder.
That PP.
Like, what the hell? So, you know, she's saying he wants to have sex for days and days and days. It's because he was on drugs.
He's old too. Like he probably needs him to get going.
This is 2010. So what year did I say he was born in?
He looked like he was in his like 60s, 70s.
Yeah. He was born in 1945. So yeah, he's like fucking 70.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
For how many drugs he's done, it's a miracle he's still walking and talking properly. So
earlier when we were talking about how in 2012 he said that he had been sober since 1967 or whatever or 1988 when he got sober the first time. That video,
he was doing drugs in the video.
Yes, in like
through a bendy straw. Right. Or what do you call those? The twisty straws.
I don't bendy straw.
No, because bendy straws are the ones that you pull and then turn.
They're like the plastic twisty straw.
Yeah, the ones that are like spirally straws.
Spirally straws. Swirly? Tell us what you call those
One of those straws.
Okay, so he would use this per about. So basically the point is he was saying that he was sober at this time. He's obviously not. He's telling other people that he was using bath salts called MDPV, this perv powder. Disgusting. And he's like, and that's why he was like having sex for like days and days and days with these 7 ladies. Now, I want to play you a clip from an interview with these women.
With the 7 women? The 7 sex workers?
It's not all 7 of them, but it's a few of them. Hold on.
You ever had sex for money prior to that, or? No. That was my first time. I was ashamed, but then I got used to it. What did he have you do? Sit on this hammock. The hammock has a hole. He puts you in a hammock. You know, he would cut a little hole. He wanted to have, like, scat sex, and then I didn't agree with that. What is scat sex? I mean, you poop in someone's mouth. He used to make you shit in his mouth.
What?
Like that. He asked you to shit in his mouth, and so I've never done that before, and it was an experience for me. And I think I was grateful because I wanted to finish school.
It was an experience for me, for sure. What the fuck?
And again, we're laughing.
Wait, so he was asking them to shit in his mouth?
Yes.
Or was he shitting in their mouth?
No, he was cutting a hole in a hammock. And they don't really explain what the hole in the hammock is for, but I can just guess. He's cutting a hole in a hammock and then asking them to shit in his mouth. And they call it scat sex. Like scat, like poop. Like, and by the way, we're laughing so hard in the video. Like, I'll link to the video in.
She goes, "I've never done this before," and then you just get used to it.
Yes. No, that part she was talking about having sex for money. I think that was at the beginning. Yeah. In the beginning, she was because the interviewer asked her, "Have you ever had sex for money before this?" And she said, "No, this was my first time. Like it was weird at first, but I got used to it or something." But like, I want to clarify. We are laughing at this, but like these women in the interview, they're laughing as they're telling the story. Like, again, it seems that they were like consenting partners. We're not like if they were being
They weren't like being
abused or
forced to shit in his mouth.
Yeah,
like.
they weren't. They don't seem to have been like prisoners of his or anything like that. They seem to be there willingly and consenting and
well, yeah, he
all
was
of
giving
that,
them money.
so.
He was giving them money, so they're like, okay.
And if anything ever comes out to say that, then I'm sorry for laughing, but they're laughing in the video, and I think that is the fucking wildest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, when I came across that, I just died. I was like, this is one of the fucking craziest stories I've ever heard. This guy is insane.
Very kinky. Not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I'm sorry if that's your kink.
But
and
if you like to have people shit in your mouth, that's, I guess.
If you like to have people shit in your mouth, you gotta be able to laugh about
that's
it, okay?
That's your own business.
Now, yeah. Okay. So.
How do you move on from that?
I don't know. And not tangent. And what do you call it when you move on to a new subject? There's a word for it. Don't know.
Segue. The word is segue.
I have difficulty with word recall. Okay.
Next.
Now, it is alleged that some sex workers, this is alleged by McAfee, I believe. I don't think he's referring to these women in this video that we've been talking about, like the women that are his girlfriends. But a sex worker at least, or maybe a group of them, they tried to kill McAfee at one point. And one of these girls actually like does an interview with Dateline and admits to trying to kill him. Like,
damn.
I think they tried to poison him or something. But it didn't work, and she like tells Dateline this. I don't know. It's weird. The whole thing's weird. It almost seems fake to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think it was one of these girlfriends. But these interviews, like, I can't find the full interviews. I'm just finding clips of them online. So like I couldn't see the names or anything. So I'm not 100% sure. Now, to pretend this attempt on his life by a sex worker made him, I mean, the guy's already paranoid. He's already paranoid. He's
on drugs all the time.
Yeah, that's what happens when you do a bunch of drugs. You become paranoid. And like this attempt on his life just sent him over the edge. Like he started to, because he couldn't trust anybody. And to protect himself, McAfee began employing like more and more armed guards because he already had armed guards like guarding his property. But he's like just getting a fucking crew of people together, of locals to, I don't know, guard his property. And he told an interviewer from 2020, the news program, not the year, that he was like a major employer on this island. And it's true, he was. And he was helping to prop up the local economy there. Again, somewhat true. But over time, McAfee seemed to become a little too involved in the local affairs. So according to an article from Wired, McAfee hunted down a 22-year-old man who had fired a gun outside of the house of one of McAfee's live-in girlfriends. So this is like, she at the time was living somewhere else. Mm-hmm. The guy's looking for her, she wasn't there. And he's like firing a gun outside. I don't think he hit anyone or anything like that. But McAfee hears about this.
Shots were fired.
And he's like, oh, fuck no, not on my watch. Mm-hmm. So he tracked down the man's home. And again, like now he goes to the man's house and the man's not there. But his family was. And McAfee tells the family that if he didn't turn the gun into McAfee, he was going to kill him. So he's like, you better tell your son or whoever.
Damn.
He needs to bring me that gun or he's dead. We're going to kill him, because he had this basically like army. And there's pictures of him. Again, I'll put it on the Instagram, the Facebook, TikTok definitely will not let me put it up. But I'll put it on Instagram and Facebook. There are pictures of him, like, and just all these armed guards with like machine guns, like just chilling on the beach and shit. It's fucking wild.
That's crazy.
It's wild. So people were like scared of him on the island. And as far as I know, this guy did go turn the gun into him.
Probably because he's like, well, I don't really have a choice.
Yeah. So when he like went to the house, he was carrying a large air rifle, like just to scare them. So like imagine, they just said it was the guy's family. So I don't know if that was like if he had a wife and kids, or if it was like his parents and his siblings.
Like extended family.
But either way, imagine like your mom, and some guy comes in with like a big rifle that she doesn't know is just an air rifle.
To like threaten you and be like,
say, I'm going to kill your child.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Now, he wasn't just inserting himself into the affairs of his girlfriends, though. According to Wired, he became fixated on a town that was called Carmelita that was close to where the Coromac's lab was. So the lab was kind of like off in the middle of the nowhere, but the closest town was Carmelita. And he was convinced that this village was fraught with narco traffickers and murderers, despite the fact that the village is reportedly a pretty safe place, aside from some fights and like a little bit of theft. But there weren't like, it wasn't a major trafficking area. There wasn't like a ton of gangs or crime or anything like that. But like, because it was so close to his lab, something about his paranoia, I think, was just like convincing him that this place was dangerous. There were like bad people here. There were gangs, and he needed to take over and control it in order to protect the lab that he had invested all of this money and everything in. Mm-hmm. So what he does is he pays to build a police station there. Because again, this town is tiny. Like there's police there, but from other like neighboring areas. So he builds a police station and like pays the police officers himself out of his pocket. So at first you're like, oh, well, that's great. Now they have a police force, but they have a police force that works for McAfee is the problem. And he's paying them to patrol the town at night. And he even like inflicts a curfew on the local residents and says like, hey, anyone out after, like, you can't be out after this time.
Yeah. What is he, the fucking mayor? Jeez. Well, like he's taking over the city.
That's what money does, dude. So he's like basically has these police officers that are heavily armed because he paid for all the weaponry, and they're patrolling the town at night. They're stopping people who are out after curfew, and they have tear gas, all of this stuff that he bought for them. And people are scared. Like they don't understand why. And McAfee is taking over this town. I mean, he is basically the top local authority at this point because out of fear.
Yeah.
Now, as time went on, his personal security detail began to include former cops as well as gang members. And he began to impose, like I said, his own rules on the town and just was threatening anyone who even dared to break them or think about breaking them. Now, according to that Gringo documentary that I talked about before, McAfee once ordered his former driver, Tom Manger, to find 3 men to beat up McAfee's neighbor, who was David Middleton. McAfee says that Middleton robbed him. We don't have a ton of evidence of this, at least not like of public knowledge. So he hires his driver, Tom Manger, to go beat this guy up. And Manger did what he was told. And the 3 men, so Manger and 2 others, tracked Middleton down, and they took him out to the woods where they violently beat and tortured him. After they were done, they left him fighting for his life in town. So they just drag him into the middle of town, just leave him there, like on the side of the road.
As like a spectacle?
I think as a warning. Like a warning?
Don't fuck with me or this is what's going to happen.
Don't fuck with me. Yep. Ugh. And now he was eventually discovered and taken to the hospital, but died in the hospital a few days later.
Damn.
So basically, McAfee fucking put out a hit on this guy. Like, he wasn't supposed to die from, like, most accounts. He wasn't supposed to die. Doesn't matter. Like, I don't know. And he sees no repercussions from this,
well,
by the way.
Everybody's scared of him.
Yeah. Now, not long after this attack, McAfee got word that one of Middleton's friends, so the guy that was killed, his friend, who was Eddie Mac-10 McCoy, was looking for McAfee.
That's a name.
Yeah, Mac-10 is like his street name.
Oh, nice.
And
Cool
Mac
name.
10 was like a notorious gangster in Belize. So he, was
He's like,
another
you fucked
person.
with the wrong bro.
Yeah. Now, fearing for his life, McAfee set up a public meeting with Mac 10, like knowing he's not going to kill me in public. And he's trying to like sway Mac 10 in his favor.
Is he trying to like hire him? Like get him on his side?
He's trying to get Mac 10 and his whole gang on McAfee's side.
Oh my God.
Now, I don't really know the outcome of this meeting, but it is believed that this, whatever McAfee said, worked. And we will get to that in a bit.
Damn.
Now, on April 30th, 2012, McAfee's compound was raided by the Belizean Gang Suppression Unit. Apparently, they believed that McAfee's lab was producing meth, though they never found any evidence of this during the raid. However, they did confiscate a bunch of illegal weapons and arrest McAfee, though he was released one day later after the U.S. Embassy came to his rescue. At this point, McAfee's convinced that basically everybody was after him. The people in the town, the government, the local sex workers, the local gangs, everyone.
The paranoia is coming.
The paranoia is out of control. And Allison, who was his partner in the lab, could not take it anymore. It was becoming too much. She was getting scared.
Yeah, I'm sure she was getting all the backlash too if we were working with him.
Yeah, and I would be scared too if I were her.
Big same.
Now, she's just kind of terrified. She wants to go home. So she tells McAfee that she's quitting and she's going back to the U.S. But he didn't take it well.
Well, yeah, she's like the brains to his bills. So
he invested millions
Yeah.
in this lab and everything. So Allison told ABC's 2020 that during her visit to McAfee, she told him that she had a headache. So McAfee, so she goes over to see him to tell him that she's quitting. While she's there, she says, I have a headache, whatever. So McAfee gives her 2 painkillers and a glass of orange juice to take them with. And she alleges that she believes it was the orange juice. She alleges that he drugged her and then raped her. And she doesn't really remember much from it, except that she woke up completely naked and could tell that she had been physically violated.
Oh no, that's so that's scary.
Isn't that fucked?
Yeah.
Now, Allison says that she tried to file a report with the FBI as soon as she got back to the U.S. because she was like, I'm not even sticking around.
Yeah, get me the fuck out of here.
Because she saw he had so much power over local authorities and stuff. So she leaves. She tries to file a report with the FBI, and reportedly, according to Allison, they told her that they didn't have any jurisdiction in Belize and they couldn't do anything about it.
Damn.
I don't know for sure if she really tried to file a report. Obviously, that's not public knowledge. But I do believe that that's true. They don't have jurisdiction there. There probably wasn't much that they could do for something like that.
Mm-hmm. That sucks.
These allegations from Allison first went public in the Showtime documentary, which is the Gringo one. Of course, of Allison's claims about her departure, McAfee wrote online, quote, Allison turned out to be far more interested in partying than in doing actual work. She would not show up at the lab for days at a time. When she did show up, she was hungover and generally useless. After many months of this, I fired her, upon which she went berserk, locked herself in the lab, destroyed what limited research we had created, and left, end quote.
This fucking dude. He's on my shit list.
This man is a bad person. So he also told 2020 in an interview that he, quote, never had sex with her, certainly never raped her, end quote. So he denied these allegations.
Okay.
And we don't know for sure,
I'm going to call bullshit on that one.
Yeah. Now, Allison wasn't the only non-local that McAfee had problems with. 2 doors down from McAfee's beachfront property was the vacation home of 52-year-old Gregory Faull. Faull had made his fortune mainly through a series of bars he owned in Florida, and he lived in Florida most of the year, but he liked to spend the summers in Belize. Faull's father told Dana Treen from the Florida Times-Union that Faull was a surfer and was attracted to Belize because, quote, it was an easygoing, nice place to live, end quote. In Belize, Faull had gotten his boating license, he was in classes to become a tour guide, and he even did business with some of the local real estate companies on the island. And it kind of just seems like he was just looking for that peaceful, relaxing, like Caribbean, like beach by day lifestyle. And he had it for the most part, except for one, I wrote little thing, but I guess I'll say it's a big thing. It was McAfee, and in addition to McAfee, his 11 dogs. So McAfee had these dogs that were, if you can imagine, he has this fucking army guarding him. Do you think these were like nice dogs that
Fluffy?
that
No.
you go up and pet and you're like, oh, you're so cute?
Golden retrievers?
No. They were mean dogs. They were vicious. They barked all the time. And they're not just like fun little sweet dogs. They're not pets is the way I would get it. I think
They were tools.
McAfee loved these dogs, but they were not pets. Now, the other problem with the dogs was like sometimes he would have them in his yard, but sometimes he would just let them wander around freely, like all over the beach. And there's like tourists and stuff that rent properties there. There's obviously people that live there, have vacation homes there. And so these dogs that are like vicious dogs are just
causing menace.
just menacing the neighborhood. So Faull wasn't the only one who had a problem with McAfee and the dogs and the fucking army. Like, it was scaring away tourists. Like, people didn't want to stay there. You're seeing all these armed guards walking around. And genuinely, it was dangerous. Like, it was I would not want to be there.
I would not want to go there.
I would not want to be there.
No thanks.
And because Faull wasn't the only one that had a problem with all of this, the residents of the neighborhood, with Faull was kind of leading this petition, but all of them came together and they petitioned the mayor to address the problems that McAfee was causing. So I'm going to read parts of this petition that was obtained by ABC News, but just know that like this isn't the full thing. I took some stuff out just for time's sake. So the petition read, quote, the residents and visitors of the Mata Grande subdivision and surrounding properties petition to address 3 issues affecting our safety, health, and tourism. These problems are all at the residence of John McAfee. 8 to 12 vicious dogs on his property are causing an unsafe environment for residents and tourists alike. These animals get loose and run as a pack. 3 residents have been bitten and 3 tourists have been attacked by various different animals on the beach and on neighboring properties. The security guards at Mr. McAfee's residence have become dangerous to the residents and visitors alike. They walk around with shotguns at night up and down the beach on other people's property. They have been known to shine spotlights right into people's eyes at night and act aggressively with their guns, chambering a bullet and nonsense such as this. People are scared to walk down the beach at night as a result. The tourists are terrified, end quote.
Jesus, just like causing terror.
Yeah, and like the dogs in the US, we don't have a ton of wild dogs because they take them and they euthanize them. But I've been to like other countries where there are tons of like wild dogs running around, and there's like they can be scary. Like sometimes they're like nice and it's very casual to see them. Like you see them all over the place. But they create like packs. So like basically their own little gangs and they have territories and it's a whole thing and they'll protect those territories. And I remember one time I was with there was a big group of us, like 10 of us. And we were like walking back to our hostel at night and we came across like a huge pack of dogs, like 13 of them. And they were just literally all sitting there. Well, not sitting, they're standing, but they're just basically like, oh, fuck no. You're not walking down our street, growling at us like all together in a pack. We fucking turned around. We're like, all right.
I would too. I'd be like, okay, heard. I'm going to go this way.
And that's what you should do because they will fucking attack you. And I don't think it's common, but like people do get killed by dogs. And
that's crazy.
But like, it was fucking scary because you're even like when they're doing it, you're like, if we turn around, are they gonna chase us? Like,
Yeah, you never know.
Because they're fucking faster than us, for sure.
If they wanted to, they could.
Now, in this complaint, they also mentioned an incident where one of the dogs attacked a tourist right in front of some of the neighbors and McAfee himself. Yet McAfee did nothing to try and stop the dog. So one of the neighbors finally confronted McAfee after this. And of course, that neighbor was Greg Faull. After this attack is when Faull and the neighbors filed that complaint. So this attack happens, a bunch of the neighbors see it. McAfee does nothing to stop his dog. Probably couldn't, even if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure. So Faull gathers the neighbors. They file this complaint, and which was on November 8th. And just 3 days later, on November 11th, 2012, Faull was found dead in his home with a gunshot wound to the back of his head.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Belizean authorities found that nothing had been stolen from the home, and there was very little evidence, leading them to believe that the killing was likely the work of a hitman. And they were immediately suspicious of John McAfee and his gang of security guards. They went to McAfee's home to question him, but he was nowhere to be found. They believed that John McAfee was already on the run, but he wasn't. Not yet, at least. McAfee later told Joshua Davis, the guy from Wired, that when they came to look for him, he was hiding. He said that he had buried himself in the sand using boxes around his head to allow him to breathe. And he stayed there for hours underneath the sand until they left.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but that is fucking
That is wild. I don't put it past him.
I feel like it's true.
I do
feel
too.
like it's true because, like, otherwise, why wouldn't you just say where you were hiding? Like,
Yeah.
or just say, like, yeah, I got away before they even got there.
Guy.
So he's just like, they searched his whole house and he's just under the sand,
He's just
buried in the sand for hours. Just, it's not funny because this man died, but like, also, what the fuck? It's just like,
It's just the most wild fucking things this man is doing.
yes, it's just like, anyway.
It's blowing my mind.
So after the authorities did leave, McAfee did go on the run at that point. So he goes on the run, but while he's on the run, he kept in touch with Joshua Davis still. And eventually, after a while, Davis and a team of a documentary film team came down and they filmed an entire documentary, which was just released, like, I think in 2022. They filmed his entire, like, on the run escape from Belize.
What the fuck?
Now, I did watch the documentary, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's a very specific story that they are telling. And that's like, that's not public knowledge. That's straight from one source. So, like, go watch the documentary. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I have the name of the film is Running with the Devil, The Wild World of John McAfee. It is fucking crazy. This guy is so insane. But again, I feel like that's their intellectual property. I'm not going to tell you that the whole story of it. I'm just going to tell you what is like public knowledge.
Damn.
So he's keeping in touch with Davis at this point, and he claimed to Davis that 4 of his dogs had been poisoned and were in so much pain. This is before the death of Greg, obviously. So he thinks that 4 of his dogs were poisoned and that they were in so much pain that he had no choice but to shoot them and kill them to put them out of their misery.
Oh.
He seemed to believe that it was Greg Faull who had done this. And he says, well, Greg Faull poisoned my dogs, and that's why the police think I killed him, but I didn't. I had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
So I don't know if the dogs were actually poisoned.
Or if he's just like making it up to like,
I don't know, but like, or maybe they were poisoned and it wasn't Greg Faull. I don't know. Someone shouldn't poison dogs, obviously. But like, if he truly believes that Greg Faull poisoned the dogs, and then Greg Faull is found dead a couple days later, he's like, but I had nothing to do with it. Okay, Yeah, sure.
Sure, buddy.
So he vehemently denies this, and spoiler alert, he's never charged with anything. So like we can't really say whatever. It's all allegedly, but allegedly,
well, because he probably didn't kill him. He probably had someone kill him.
A hitman. Yeah. A hitman. Just like he ordered that like attack of the other guy who ended up dying in the hospital. So I just want to say that I allegedly think he allegedly did it. Allegedly. Okay? Allegedly. Now, so Davis comes down, the Wired guy. Davis is like, oh my God, like he's going on the run. So Davis comes down, him and a couple other guys to like film this whole thing. And they literally go on the run with John McAfee from Belize and to Guatemala, which is where he was trying to escape to. I think it was something about they didn't have extradition to Belize or to the US. And it's not fully clear how he successfully made it into Guatemala. You might want to watch that documentary. But as of public knowledge, it's not fully clear. But once he arrived, he and Wired and Vice, he just wasted no time in going to the press to talk about how he was like wrongfully being accused of this crime and all of that bullshit. So he does an interview with someone from Vice in Guatemala, and Vice like releases photos in their article from this interview. So they post the interview and there's photos in it online. And they made the mistake of posting an original photo of McAfee, which contained all of the metadata from the image, which pinpointed his location. So like when you take a photo, like if you have an iPhone, you take a photo and you can go and see like, there's like that maps option where you can click the map in the Photos app and you can see like, oh, here's all my photos from, when I was in LA or when I was in New York and whatever. That's all metadata that's contained within the photo file. So if you want to hide that, you have to basically like make, I don't really know exactly how they do it, but make copies of this or screenshots of these photos or whatever so it doesn't contain that data. And Vice didn't do that. So they literally just this man who is literally on the run for probably murdering somebody or putting out a hit on somebody, and they just released his fucking location all over the internet.
Damn.
So they pinpointed his location in Guatemala City, and Vice later like reported saying, yes, we did accidentally release his location. Yes, whatever. But while this is all happening, while McAfee's getting tracked and authorities are figuring out how they're going to get him, McAfee actually hires an attorney in Guatemala who is one of the best lawyers in the country, apparently, and was also the uncle of one of his 20-year-old girlfriends who was named Sam, who was also on the run with them. Did I explain that well? I feel like that was a lot of information.
That was a lot.
Okay, so he's got the girlfriend, Sam. This is one of the live-in girlfriends from Belize.
Okay.
She comes on the run with them.
Okay.
They run to Guatemala. They're with these like media people, whatever, filming it. They get to Guatemala. He does an interview. Photos released. Locations released. But like this is all happening very quickly. And before they even realize that the location has been released, he hires this attorney who is Sam's uncle. And he's one of the best attorneys in Guatemala. Okay. And so they're working together trying to figure out a plan for like what he's going to do, how he's going to get out of this. However, because of the location data being released, Guatemalan authorities were already onto McAfee and came to arrest him on December 6, 2012. He was supposed to be deported back to Belize. That was the plan. They're going to go get him. He's going to be shipped back to Belize, and then Belizean authorities would be waiting for him, and they would do what they needed to do. But as they arrested McAfee in Guatemala City, McAfee allegedly faked a heart attack. So they called whatever their 911 is, and like an ambulance came, and he goes to the hospital, and this whole thing put him in the hospital just long enough for his lawyer to successfully file an appeal for his extradition.
He's like, just buy me some time. He's like, gotcha. Fake heart attack activated.
Yes. So like the hospital, he gets to the hospital and they're like, you didn't have a heart attack.
Yeah, you're completely fine, dude.
But like this gives the lawyer enough time to file this appeal, which was successful and allowed McAfee to return to the U.S. instead of being arrested and taken back to Belize.
This guy was too smart to be a criminal. Honestly, he's a smart guy, but like used it for the wrong things.
Yes. Like we always talk about these cases and we're like, this guy's a fucking idiot, but also thank God they're an idiot because they get caught and whatever.
I think this guy's just a genius in a bad way.
It's crazy. So he goes back to the U.S. He's promptly flown over to Miami where he escaped these charges in Belize. Like they didn't get him. And even though he was never charged or convicted in any criminal court of Faull's death, he was eventually found liable for Faull's death in 2018 in a civil court after he was sued by Faull's family.
Okay.
So basically what the alleged story is, what some people believe happened, is that McAfee hired that MAC-10 guy to kill Faull.
Oh.
So, but again...
So the outcome of their meeting sounded like it worked in McAfee's favor.
Right. But he's never charged, he's never convicted, but he is found legally responsible for the death of Faull.
Okay.
In a civil court. Now, of course, being the asshole that he is, McAfee told the press outright that he would not pay the $25 million that he was ordered to pay to Faull's family by the court system.
Whoa, that's
Nor would he pay any of the other 37 lawsuits against him.
Shit.
For like a bunch of various stuff.
I'm sure dog bites.
I don't even know
beatings.
What else. But now, just a day after he arrived in Miami, after fleeing from Guatemala, McAfee hired a sex worker named Janice. He was immediately smitten with the woman, and the pair were married less than a year later in 2013.
He fell in love with a stripper.
That was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The way, the improv. Oh, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. He fucking fell in love with the stripper.
And they got married.
Okay. That is so funny. Sorry. It's funny because before I even laughed, I just was agape. Because I was like, that is so fucking good. What a great clip for the pod. If the video did not get that, I will cry. There will be tears.
The video did not get the clip because Kelsey's boyfriend texted her and her phone stopped recording. Bravely, she only shed a single tear. After much internal debate, she decided to continue dating him despite this atrocious outcome. Now back to the story.
So, Janice says that McAfee saved her from a trafficking ring and helped her reconnect with her son. So she's all on. Like, she's Team McAfee. Like, he's such a good person. He saves me. And I don't know, maybe that's true. Mm-hmm. Like, he saved me. He reconnected with her son, whatever. But he's not a good person. Okay? Just because he was nice to you doesn't mean he's a good person. Nice and good are different. Mm-hmm. Now, McAfee's life after he got married to Janice and he's back in the U.S., it seemed to settle down for a bit. That is, until he ran for president of the United States in 2016.
What the fuck?
So he was seeking the Libertarian Party nomination, which he did lose to Gary Johnson. But this is like not that long ago. He was running.
Yeah, that's
He was trying
wild.
to run for president after he literally fled Belize because he was suspected of ordering a hit on Greg Faull. And then he's like, you know what? I should run for president.
This guy.
And people fucking liked him. Of course they did, which, but they liked him. He I don't know. It's crazy. So in a message to voters, McAfee said, quote, I think the fundamental difference between myself and every other contender in every party is that I have no shame. Yes, I've been in jail. I've taken drugs, more drugs than you in the audience can ever fucking carry. Everything that I have done, I own, end quote. Which is all true. And if that is what you're looking for in a presidential candidate.
Was this had to have been after he filmed that how to uninstall your virus?
Is. Yeah. It was like, I think about 5 years later.
Wow.
So he's just like, people like me because I have no shame. I'm like,
I made a life for myself and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm like, sir.
I can understand people liking a candidate because they're honest or they seem to be honest or own up to mistakes they've made. Mm-hmm. I think that's very different than having no shame.
Yeah. Very.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like you want them to be honest and open up, like admit mistakes that they've made. But when they're sitting
like
here,
proud
it wasn't
of it.
A mistake. I have no shame about it. It's like,
he's like, I did this. I'm gonna own it.
Yeah.
But no shame.
That's a little scary. But anyway. Now,
thank God that we did not vote him into presidency.
Right? I don't remember much about Gary Johnson, but thank you for taking the Libertarian Party nomination over McAfee. Good job. I hope he's not a bad person because someone's going to yell at me for saying that. Probably is. But even though he lost this nomination, he vowed to run again in 2020. But just a little fun fact, in the meantime, he became extremely involved in Bitcoin, of course. So he's like, all right, I'm going to run for president again. I'll be back. But in the meantime, I got some business to attend to. And he gets deep, like he's down and dirty in Bitcoin. And in 2017, he made a tweet predicting that the Bitcoin price would rise to over $500,000 by 2020, adding, quote, if not, I will eat my own dick on national television, end quote.
Damn, he went Kurt Cobain with it. Or wait, no, who was that? Marilyn Manson, who like allegedly removed his ribs to suck his own dick. But I don't think that's true.
Is that true?
I heard that was not true.
I've heard that before, but I don't know if it's true. But yes, but he wasn't trying to suck his own dick. He said, I will eat my own dick on national television. I think that means chew and swallow.
Ouch.
Now, the year of 2020, so 2020 closed out the year with Bitcoin still under $30,000. And he said, if it's not at $500,000, I will eat my own dick on television. And it was under 30,000. But sadly, McAfee did not live to see this day.
Sadly.
And thus the world missed out on watching him eat his own dick on television.
Damn.
And for that, I'm heartbroken. Because I do think he might have done it. Or maybe like a dick or like a piece of it. He would have had like a piece of it surgically removed to eat or something. I don't know. I feel like he would have done something buck wild.
I don't put it past him.
Now, like I said, he did not live to see this day. So let's talk about what happened to him. So there's a man named Louis Cassiano. He reported for Fox News in 2019 that McAfee had tweeted, quote, I have not filed a tax return for 8 years. End quote. In a series of tweets following this, he basically called taxes illegal, compared the IRS to the Nazi SS, and said that he is a quote-unquote prime target for the IRS, and taunted them to come get him, tweeting, quote, here I am, end quote.
He's like, hey, I haven't paid taxes in 8 years, but you're not going to do shit about it. Here I am. Come get me if you want to do it.
Yes. And they did indeed formulate a plan to go get him. However,
he said, oh, shit. They called my bluff.
However, according to reporting by Fox News, as soon as McAfee caught wind of the fact that a grand jury had voted to indict him on tax evasion charges, he went on the run again.
On the road again.
At 73 years old.
Oh, wow. he's got to be tired at this point, man. He's in his...
Dude, this guy is just crazy. He's just taunting them. He's like, I haven't paid taxes in 8 years. Come and get me, blah, blah, blah. And then they literally, like, grand jury votes. All right, time to go get him.
Cool.
That means
easy target. Here we go.
Yeah, and then he hears about this. He just goes on the run.
He's like, well, all right.
At 73, it's like, my boy, aren't you tired?
What did you think was going to happen? I mean...
Right?
What did you honestly think was going to happen?
Right? Like
you were like, oh, well, I'm so invincible in Belize, so...
Also, like, how is he getting away with that for 8 years? He said he didn't file for 8 years. Like, so I don't know. Maybe it's not true. Maybe he did, and then it was just, like, the last few years. But I'm like, how the fuck did he get away with that? Like,
oh, my God. This guy. This fucking guy.
This time, though, instead of fleeing on foot, he fled on a boat. So he sails off the coast of the U.S., basically, and he's just like on a boat in the middle of the fucking ocean because they can't arrest him there because it's international waters. Of course, this was not the best time because this is 2019. He has to go on the run again because otherwise he's going to prison. And this really wasn't the best time for him to go on the run because that 2020 presidential election was coming up and he had vowed that he was going to run again. So, of course, he didn't let being on the run stop him from doing this. He tweeted a series of videos explaining that going on the run wasn't going to stop him from running for president. And he's like basically explaining in all these videos how he's going to manage his campaign from international waters. And in my opinion, he looks extremely like tweaked out in these videos. Like he's like his hands are shaky and like he's just saying weird, wild shit and all of this. So
he's like, let me do some drugs and film some Twitter videos.
Right. So again, I will like share these videos or at least the links to them and all of that on Instagram and Facebook. Maybe this one I can share on TikTok. This whole week that we release this episode, like our socials are going to be fucking popping with John McAfee content. So it's the same year from the boat while he's on the run that he tweets that tweet I read you at the very top of the episode. So I'm just going to read it again for a reminder. So it says, quote, getting subtle messages from U.S. officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm, end quote. And then the tweet had a picture with it, which was of a new tattoo that said, it had like a $sign and then it said whacked next to it. Now, important context, this was after Jeffrey Epstein died in prison and they said he died by suicide and a lot of people think he was actually killed. Mm-hmm. And so he... like, in addition to this tweet saying, I would never kill myself. If they say I did, I was killed, blah, blah, blah. This is all, like, he was also doing a bunch of tweets and, like, saying all this stuff about, like, Jeffrey Epstein, saying Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself and they're going to do the same thing to me and all this. So.
Makes sense.
McAfee did make it a while, but he was eventually arrested in Barcelona, Spain on October 5th, 2020. Now, he stays in prison in Spain for a while because they have to do all of this stuff to get him extradited back to the U.S. Mm-hmm. But on June 23rd, 2021, that extradition was like officially finalized. So it's like official. He's going to go back. They don't have a date yet, but it's happening. It's later that day that McAfee was found hanging in his cell. He was 75 years old.
Damn.
So... yeah. I don't know. Like, do you think he killed himself or do you think he was killed?
I don't think he killed himself at all. But do I think he got what was coming to him? Probably.
Yeah. I just like, he said it was U.S. officials and I'm like, but he was in Spain. I don't know.
I think he made too many enemies to be fine in prison. I think he was... way too deep in it. It's weird that it's
the same day. Like, it was just hours after they said, all right, McAfee, you're going to be extradited. You're going back to the U.S., going to prison. Just hours later, I'm like, if someone was just going to kill him in prison, like, why would they wait? I'm like, in my mind, I could also just see him being like, I'm pulling the greatest prank of all time. I'm going to tweet all these tweets about how I would never kill myself.
I'm actually going to kill myself.
And then, and they must have killed me. And then I'm going to kill myself and make it so everyone believes the government did it. I don't know. I'm 50-50 on.
I don't know. I don't think that he would kill, for how much he like valued himself and like thought he was like doing the best fucking thing in the world. And he thought he was the coolest person ever. I don't think he would kill himself. I think he was riding the life wave for too long. But yeah, no, I don't think he would do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know though. I could be wrong.
Now,
75 though. He made it a while.
Yeah. Absolutely insane life and death of John McAfee.
Sounds like he made all this up, but it's like.
Anyway, so you got to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to see all the videos and stuff, because I know TikTok's like not going to let me post them.
Yeah.
So make sure you're following us. Go check it out, because this is insane. We'll also do some TikTok stuff that's different. So look there too. The whole shebang. We appreciate it. I think that's it for the day.
And
did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
All right. Court is adjourned.
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta.